Hey everyone, I'm Kevin with Squatch Proof. Today in the garage, we're going to be installing our seat side MOLLE panels here on both the front and rear seats of our Ranger XP 1000 Crew. Now our seat side MOLLEs are going to kind of bolt in and occupy this space here just below the driver's side seating area, both on the front row here and the rear seat of our Crew. Now for those of you running just a single row Ranger, you'll follow along with just this front section to get yours installed. Now the way these are going to mount is we'll locate the panel, then we'll mark and drill a few holes, and then we'll have to install our hardware here on the outside as well as inside beneath the seat. Before we can do that, on the front rows here, we're going to need to do just a little bit of disassembly. So basically we're going to be partially removing this driver's seat. We're going to start by flipping up the seat base down here, and then you'll need a 13mm socket to remove the 4 nuts holding it in place here. Once those are out of the way, you're just going to kind of temporarily lift this seat up and place it over to the side. So you're kind of be lifting it off of the studs there, as well as lifting 2 clips out of their slots here on the back. So I went ahead and placed a blanket over here because that's kind of where we're going to be placing this seat. That's just going to help protect that in case anything on the bottom of here happens to be sharp. Then you'll want to grab the seat belt, just kind of throw it out around the side of this grab handle here, and then we can take the seat and just kind of lift straight up. You can go ahead and fold this down temporarily and then place this over to the side. Now if you really wanted to, you could disconnect the seat belt both down here as well as up top on the cage and route that back through there to be able to fully remove the seat, but this should just be a pretty quick temporary thing, so this should be just fine for now. Next you can grab a 10mm socket, and you're going to be removing 2 screws here at the back of the seat base and the 2 here in the front. Then you can just lift this out of the way and set it off to the side. With that out of the way, you'll want to grab some sort of pry tool. I just have a small panel and clip tool here. You could probably do this with a flat screwdriver. You're just going to need to pop the Christmas tree style clip that's holding this wire connection in place here. Just pull that straight up. And then this entire inner cubby or storage compartment can simply be lifted out of this seating area. Now with that out of the way, you now have access to the back side of this panel, so you can not only drill your holes, but be able to install the nuts here on the inside. So now we can kind of lay out the placement of our panel and mark our holes. Basically all you're going to be doing here, using both the edges of the panel and the surrounding surfaces as a guide. You can lay it flat on this surface here. You're basically using this molding line down here, this edge obviously, along with kind of the first radius edge here along the front and top side. Basically you're just trying to kind of center this up in those locations. You can also adjust this ever so slightly if you kind of know the specific gear you're going to be putting here and you think you might need just a tiny bit more space in either direction. But generally speaking, centered is going to look best here. So we're going to kind of place that where we want it. And then I'm just going to use a silver Sharpie. You could also use like a sharp prick punch or something like that to press into this plastic. Basically we're just trying to make a mark at each of these hole mounting locations. Just kind of hold the panel as steady as possible while you're doing this step. And once you're happy with all your marks, you can temporarily pull this down out of the way. And once you have these all laid out, you can grab a 1/4" drill bit and open each of these up to accept your hardware. Now you can grab your panel along with 2 of the 1/4" button head bolts from your hardware pack. I'm just going to slide these both through the top mounting holes and then follow those up on the back side of the panel, each with one of the provided nylon spacers. Then I'm just going to kind of loosely hang the panel using those top 2 holes along with those bolts. And then on the inside we're going to reach in and loosely install the 1/4" nylon locking nuts. Then with the panel loosely hanging on that top mounting hardware, you'll grab 2 more bolts, spacers, and nuts to install down here at the bottom. Once you have all the hardware started by hand, you'll just need a 5/32 hex for out here on the bolt side and a 7/16 socket for the inside on the nut, and you can go ahead and work your way around and evenly tighten these up. Once you get those 4 bolts tight, your front panel installation is complete and you can begin reassembly up here. Now the reassembly portion is pretty straightforward. That's just going to be the reverse installation of how you took all this apart. So we'll start with the storage compartment, dropping this back in, just making sure that we're paying attention to this wire routing back in here so that we get it in the appropriate slot and get that clip snapped back in place. After that, you can reinstall this seat track, just making sure these front tabs drop down into the appropriate slots. And reinstall the factory hardware there. Then carefully grab this seat and slide it back down on the mounting studs here. And at the same time as doing this, you're going to need to be paying attention to the 2 locking tabs at the top, making sure they get slid back into this crossbar in the cage. Then, once you've got that all in place, grab your 13mm socket and those factory nuts to thread back onto these studs. Then lastly, you can flip this back down, make sure it locks in place, and then just make sure that you get the seat belt rerouted properly. So if you're only running a single row Ranger or you're just going to be installing a panel on the front, your installation's complete. But since we're installing both panels here on our crew, we're going to jump to the rear where things get just a little bit easier. So here in the rear, you're going to be following pretty much the exact same installation process as far as the drilling and the hardware goes. However, the biggest difference is you can simply flip this seat up and then you don't have that seat frame that needs to be removed before the storage compartment can come out. So with the seat up, you can simply grab this, you'll kind of lift the side and just pull it out. Now you can follow that process. You can access everything back here and get this rear panel installed. So one word of caution we do want to throw out here when you're working on the rear is just that your fuel tank is housed under this seat. So you want to pay attention to that as you're drilling, specifically these bottom holes. It is several inches between this mounting surface and the fuel tank, but that's just something to be aware of so you don't cause yourself any problems. So with all that being said, once you get this installed, you can simply slide this cubby back in, make sure that inside edge kind of hooks under the plastic on the other side, and then you can fold down your seat, get it locked back in place, and complete this rear install. So hopefully that'll help you get these installed. Now if you do have any questions, you can always check out our website, squatch-proof.com, for more information, or give us a call at 269-323-1162.